Hello friends, we will be discussing notation in library classification today. I am Jaideep Sharma from the School of Social Sciences, Faculty of Library and Information Science. The topic that we are going to discuss today, it is useful for our students, for the Bachelors of Library Information Science students, the course BLI 223, and for the Certificate of Library Information Science students, the course BLII 012, Document Processing and Organization, and for the BLI students, it is Organizing and Managing Information. We all know that librarians have to organize and manage information. They exist to serve the information needs of the society, and therefore they have to provide this information pinpointedly, exhaustively, in a timely manner. So, when, where, whatever is needed, they have to provide. Therefore, they have to organize this information. Now, this information is available in different forms and formats, and when we talk of notation, basically we are concerned more of this information available in documented forms, and these forms are either print forms or other forms, and we are more worried about notation when we are trying to provide this information in print form. We are worried about organizing these printed sources of information which are available in the stacks of a library. Notation otherwise is also very important, but more so in case of organizing documents in the shelves in a library, or also their surrogates, maybe the catalog cards, maybe the bibliographic entries. So, all these have to be arranged, and for that we need notation. Now, you might be wondering, why do we need notation? Because when we have to organize documents in a library, these documents have their names. They can be organized by their names alphabetically or in some other order, whichever is convenient for the users. Now, you know, these names, as we are calling, these are titles of documents, and titles are of two different kinds. Either they indicate or denote the subject of the document, or they may not be able to denote the document, just the subject of the document, just by the title of the document. The title may express the subject, but in cases the title is fanciful in nature, it doesn't express the subject of the document, then we'll not be able to really do justice to our needs and requirements of the users, because the title is not indicative of the subject content. Because we all know that we arrange and organize documents and their surrogates in a library by their subjects, because this is the most convenient way for our users to access and reach or recall or retrieve their information. Now, immediately the answer that may be coming from you, as I am presupposing, is that you will say, yes, every document has a subject, and subject means there is a name for that subject. Why can't we organize the documents by the names of those subjects? Immediately what I will say you is that names of subjects differ in different languages. If a book is available in different languages, it will be difficult to arrange it, because as per the language, the position of the book will change. Maybe in the same library, a particular document is available in two or more than two languages, and if we arrange that by the names of those subjects, it will be dispersed, it will be at different places due to the languages. But then immediately the answer that comes from you is no harm, because it may either also be placed at different places as per the language of the document. But in case the library decides to keep documents according to subjects irrespective of the language in which they are, then this may create trouble. So, this is one point. The other point is that the names of subjects keep changing. With time, you would have seen that the names of subjects have been changing. So, what will happen in case the name of a subject changes, which does not happen very frequently, but it happens at times? What will happen? We will have to reclassify our collection. With the change in the name of the subject, the place of the document would change. So this is another reason why the name of the subject is not enough to classify documents by the names. The other reason is that if we try to classify the documents in a library by the names of the subjects and arrange such documents, the arrangement that would result so will not be helpful to the user. And the reason for that is alphabetical scattering. Because the name of subject is not natural, it's an artificial characteristic of a document. And all documents on the same subject will change their positions, or those documents on related subjects will be scattered. They will be found at different places, which we do not want. Our vision is, our plan is to have all documents on the same subject at one place and all documents on related subjects kept together. Those subjects which are not related to each other, their documents should be separated from each other. They should be as far as each other as far their relationships are. The more the difference in the relationship, the more they are separated, the more they are related to each other, the more closely they are placed. So in view of all such facts, the need for notation in library classification is felt, and that notation helps us to provide names to such documents in an artificial language that is called the classificatory language. And the classificatory language makes use of notation, which differs with the different types of languages. And this notation is what we are going to discuss today. What are the characteristics of this notation? What types of notation are there? And what should be there in these notation to really help us do what we want to do? I'll try to give you some examples of notation in other disciplines also. In other walks of life also, we make use of notation, not only in library classification, and that will help us to visualize, yes, notation helps us. I show you here on your screen example of a notation. If you see this notation and if you are related to music or otherwise also, you would immediately say, yes, this is a notation that you know. And what is this notation? This is musical notation. So what does musical notation do? It helps us to play that music. We know how fast to go and where we have to go slow. It helps us to know the dynamics of music. We are also able to share. If we have different musicians who are playing together, they'll be able to know at the same time through the notation and play in unison. So therefore it serves a purpose. Another example of notation, shorthand symbols that we make use of. We all know that it serves a purpose. We are able to write fast. We are able to save time. We are able to save space. So two examples I have just now shown you where notation is used and it helps serve our purpose. Another example before you, I think you are able to recognize each one of us have had an experience with this notation. Yes, please. Yes, this is the periodic table. When we had studied chemistry, we had studied elements, we all know that these are placed in a particular order which was given by Mendeleev. We call it the Mendeleev's periodic table. And you see here that elements that exist, they have been placed in rows and columns, groups and periods. And how have they been placed? They have been placed according to the properties of these elements. Those elements which have similar properties are placed in one place. They are placed in a particular column, and we call these as periods and groups. And similarly, with increasing period or group, we find their properties are also changing similarly in a similar fashion. So this is another example of making use of notation in chemistry, and this helps us in standardization. This helps us to know the nature of these elements and also helps us to perform better, to know these elements better and know the subject better. Let us come to the discipline of library information science, where we make use of notation. I show here to you all a snapshot of a stack in a library, and you see here that the books that are placed in the stack, they are all having notation on the spine of the books. Can you see here? Yes, these notation on the spine of the books is another example of the use of notation. The spine means when a book is placed vertically on the vertical spine of the book, on the lower bottom corner you find some notation is mentioned. So this is an example of use of notation in library classification. Now what is this notation? It has been defined in different ways by different people. What they say, digits that are used to represent subjects in classification are called notation. Defined differently, it says symbols in some order denoting terms or members of a series or system of things by Bliss. Ranganathan, who has explained each and every concept and also given these concepts, he defines the notational system. I quote, a number forming a member of a notational system. He is referring to this number as notation. So notational system is, I quote from Ranganathan, a system of ordinal numbers used to represent the classes in a scheme of classification. So very appropriately he has defined that it is an ordinal number. Ranganathan was a mathematician and he never faltered not to make use of these scientific terms. So he has explained it. He has given an explanatory definition when he defines notation, and here he characterizes this notation that it has an ordinal value. So notation may have an ordinal value or cardinal also. But when we make use of notation in libraries or library classification, we are making use of ordinal numbers, because this notation we are making use to assign position to the documents. It gives it a positional value. Therefore, while defining notation, he has included this term ordinal here. So this is the definition given by Ranganathan. Why should we have notation in library classification? We have seen examples from other fields and we have also given the reasons. But let us talk of a library where we have to organize the collection, and the reasons are here on your screen. All subjects, they have their own names. Then why notation? We all know, as shown in the picture also, that this notation has to be mentioned on the spine. So if big names are there, you cannot have names with just one or two words, which is very limited space on the spine of the book. It may be a sentence also, because subject could be any, the length of the subject could be any. Therefore, it is difficult to mention that subject on the spine of the book. Therefore, you need to have a system where you can briefly represent the subject of the book. Also in a catalog entry, you cannot do it in a long subject cannot be expressed a number of terms. It has to be brief. On bookshelves also it is mentioned. Therefore, we need brief names, which is possible by notation. So therefore, these are unique names. Otherwise, if we make use of language, you all know our language has synonyms, has homonyms, has homographs. Therefore, it would create problems to understand also, and the same subject may have two or more different names. Therefore, it violates the canons that were given by Ranganathan. And also, as I explained earlier, that if we make use of different languages, then also it creates a problem. Therefore, we make use of notation. Now, as I was telling you earlier, that when subjects have their name, why should we have additional names in the form of notation? And very clearly we have already said earlier that the shorthand notation helps us to serve our purpose. And also these names do not change, which otherwise change. In language, as I was mentioning, these keep on changing. So name of a subject will not change if we make use of notation. And canons will also not be violated, and subject scattering, which otherwise is there in case we make use of alphabets or we make use of verbal names, it will not be there when we make use of notation. Another benefit of notation, it helps us to mechanize the order of subjects. You all know that the classification that is done in libraries is done by different sets of people. There is a set of people who are called as classificationists who design scheme of classification. You know, designing a scheme of classification is a highly it's a highly work which involves lot of knowledge in a particular discipline. You need to apply, you need to know about the different branches of knowledge. Only those people design schemes of classification. They are called classification designers, they are called classificationists, as Ranganathan had given the term. So they need to know about the different branches of knowledge, how these branches and sub branches are related to each other, what are their facets, and on the basis of that they design the schemes of classification. There is another set of people called the classifiers who make use of these schemes of classification. They also know about the different subjects and the relationships among them. There is a third set of people who on the basis of this, they retrieve the documents, they keep back the documents in the shelves. So whenever a user wants it, these set of people, they take out these documents from the shelves, and also when it is returned back, they keep it in their place. Now what happens? The classification designer is not there, the classifier is not doing it, it is the third set of people. Therefore we need to have a system of arrangement which is mechanized in arrangement, which a person may not be knowing all these relations but still be able to implement these decisions that have been taken by classificationists. Therefore we need to have a system which is mechanical. It goes on and on like that. And you see here I have given an example of a subject which looks so complicated that a person may not be able to arrange the books on shelves because you do not know the different set of symbols that are part of the class numbers, what is their positional value in relation to each other. Therefore this mechanization is very important for the notation to be implemented and therefore books to be arranged. Now these notational systems that are there, they follow different numbers, and these numbers, as I was telling you, Ranganathan said ordinal only are used. They are of different types. We all know that there could be natural numbers, there could be integers, there could be whole numbers. Similarly, we also alphabets also are ordinal in nature. We make use of alphabets of different languages also. No harm of different languages can be made use of. And therefore this notation is far and wide that is available to us, and therefore the notational systems, the notational capacity of different notational systems vary. As if you see here on your screen, there is pure notation that is there. So the pure notation has limited capacity. Now I give you an example of pure notation. You see here these are different types of pure notations. Here one, I have made use of Indo-Arabic numerals. Similarly, the Roman letters, the Devanagari, these are all examples of different types of pure notation. Coming back, I give you an example of mixed notation. This is another types of notation, and you see here on your screen an example of mixed notation. You find different types of notations have been used. I am showing you all these because this is possible to be made used in different schemes of classification. They can be made use of in different schemes. And similarly, there is another example of type of notation. It is called non-faceted notation. These are all pure notation. They are non-faceted. There are no different facets available. They are all of one variety. Therefore they are called non-faceted or pure. Similarly, there are faceted notation, and this is an example of faceted notation. You will see that these different types of notation are available in different types, and the facets are visible here. These are all examples of mixed notation. So we have different ways of categorizing notation, which is part of a notational system. It is pure notation, it is mixed notation, it is faceted notation, it is non-faceted notation. We all know there are different schemes of classification which we all make use of, and they have all their own pros and cons. The enumerative scheme, the faceted scheme, Ranganathan said purely faceted, almost faceted or freely faceted analytico-synthetic scheme of classification as his scheme of classification, that is colon classification, is there. Now, if we make use of different sets of notation, you can see here on your screen that the natural numbers are only 9 there, integers 18, whole numbers, and similarly Roman alphabets, they have their own capacity, but then that alone is not enough to serve the capacity of a notational system. And when we talk of a capacity of a notational system, we talk in terms of an array. An array means that we should be able to express different members of different members originating from the same universe in different ways, so that they are shown as members of that array. I read out the definition of an array, that it is the set of class numbers or isolate numbers used to represent the classes or ranked isolates, as the case may be, in an array taken in the sequence of the classes or the ranked isolates. This definition has been given by Ranganathan, that basically I can explain to you in very brief simple words, that when we have members of a group, which these all members have similar they are all of the same level. At idea plane we know that they are of the same level, but at the notational plane, if we want to depict them as belonging to the same level, the capacity of the notation should be such that we are able to show that. That is the problem of notation. Therefore, Ranganathan advocated the use of mixed notation, by which we are able to show an array of unlimited size due to all these, which he made use of pure notation, mixed notation. He made use of devices, different types of devices, which enable this to be possible. And therefore, I have shown you here the example of arrays, the first order array, the second order array, and this is here on your screen. Now, increasing the notational system of a notation, Ranganathan made use of different devices, as I was telling you. Beside the faceted notation, he also said the empty digit device, emptying digit device, empty cum emptying digit device. These are all given by Ranganathan, which we will explain a little while from now. The faceted notation you see here on your screen, there are 4 examples which I have given you from the class numbers of colon classification as well as DV decimal classification, and you see here there are facets visible like O111. So there are 2 facets here. O is 1, 111, comma 2 and 62. This is another facet, comma 1, 2 is another facet. So it is by the use of different types of notation and also the indicator digits, which is comma in the first example. In the second example, you see that it is 2, 3, 4, comma 5, semicolon 2, colon 3, 4. I have made use of further indicator digits here, comma, semicolon, colon, which enable us to know that there are different facets in this particular notation. In the third example of DDC, DV decimal classification, it is 500.954. So DDC doesn't make use of comma, semicolon, but it makes use of a combination of 9s and 8s, zeros with 0 and a combination of digits by which we are able to see the facets. In the third example, again from DDC, it is 510.2433. By way of different colors, I have tried to show you the different facets, which as a student we should all know that they have made use of table 1 here, which helps us to know the different facets, and there are rules for that. So this is an example of a pure notation and mixed notation for you. Now this fixed notation, not only by use of these digits, the use of other sectorizing and octavizing digits that have been recommended by Ranganathan, advocated by Ranganathan, also help us. And these are generally the digits towards the end of the array. Like 9 has been used as an octavizing digit, means it creates octaves as you have in music. You see here the example of octaves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 and 9, 1 to 9, 8, 1 octave, 9, 9, 1 to 9, 9, 8, and similarly we can go on increasing, the octave is there. Similarly, they have made use of Z as a sectorizing digit. So Z alone has not been used here. You see here in the sector notation that Z has been used in combination only. So Z doesn't have an ordinal value. It is an empty digit. You see here I have made use of up to Y only, and from Y onwards I say ZA and up to Z y, and similarly this can be expanded to any length. Therefore, thus this capability of the notation, this property of the notation enables us to expand the capability of the notation. Similarly, the sectors have been used by Ranganathan in his scheme of classification, which helps us to know the different types of digits. And as I was telling you, not only empty digits, emptying digits also have been used, and in his CC7 we have T, V and X as emptying digits and U, W, Y as empty cum emptying digits. So these are all there, as I was telling you earlier, gaps, empty digits, emptying digits and emptying digits, as well as devices that are used. And the devices that help us to really achieve the capacity of notation is the subject device, chronological device, geographical device, superimposition device and alphabetical device. Moreover, what Ranganathan has done in his notation is that his notation is mnemonic in nature. Mnemonic means one is able to remember, the classifier is able to remember, the staff who is providing service is able to remember, and the user is also able to remember. Means the notation that has been used in colon classification is such that one saves time. Ranganathan's fourth law of library science, he says, the fourth law says, save the time of the user as well as staff. So the notation that has been designed by Ranganathan, it has characterized so that one is able to use the same type of notation for similar concepts, and that quality of notation in colon classification is called mnemonic quality. There are different types of mnemonics in the notation of CC. These are the scheduled mnemonics, systematic mnemonics, seminal mnemonics and alphabetical mnemonics. And these are really operate at the idea plane as well as the notational plane, and therefore the same set of digits are used to express similar concepts, and this really helps us to remember. And the highest form of mnemonics is in the form of seminal mnemonics that operates at the idea level, and it says that those concepts that zero down to the similar entities, like he says the disease or shortcomings of the society, he has used the symbol 4 in the fundamental category energy. Similarly, he denotes the concept of unity through 1. Similarly, those at the having a level of 2, like it could be the concepts could be from physics or could be from religion or could be from mathematics, he always gives the notation 2 for them. So he has used the symbols in a very systematic way, down to the level of the concept finally that is there at the philosophical level also. So the notation serves a purpose. Notation is not everything, but notation really helps us to achieve an order which really serves the purpose of the users, providing the same information at one place and helping the user to know the subject and have all information exhaustively at one place and saving the time of the user. So today what we discussed is the need for notation. What is notation? What is the definition of notation? What are the different types of notation? What are the characteristics of notation? How to expand the capacity of the notation using devices that have been given by Ranganathan, given the different techniques that have been given by Ranganathan, the empty digit, emptying digit, empty cum emptying digit, and how beautifully he has used this notation. Though the size of the class number, the length of the class number in colon classification goes a little long, but then is able to coextensively express the thought of the subject as well as using a faceted notation. In DDC also we find that facetedness is there, but the notation is simple because the variety of symbols is less. The DDC makes use of point, and with that 0 in combination of zeros with 1, at times with 9 and some other digits also. Therefore, the notation is important part of classification which we should all understand and also appreciate. Thank you.